If you're wondering how much money you can potentially make with Alpha Mining Co. NFTs, whether you have a reserve NFT or you're looking to purchase one, or you're looking to purchase one of these future round NFTs, well, I've built a spreadsheet that tries to estimate the amount of money that you could potentially make depending on your investment. So just before we get into this spreadsheet and how it works, full disclaimer, this is an estimation. There are so many different assumptions in this that you can tweak and play with that obviously are going to have a massive impact on the amount that you could potentially make. And this is by no means the Alpha Mining Co team doing this. This was me on my own trying to build something for the community. And this is to be used as a tool. It's not to be used as, this is guaranteed. This is what I'm going to make. Again, this is just an estimation. And I just wanted to get that out of the way because I don't want people to think this is exactly the amount of money you're going to get. It is an idea of what you could potentially get. So I am going to leave a link to this spreadsheet in the description below. You guys can go ahead and download that, create a copy for yourself, play around with it. And if you find any errors, well, let me know. And if you want to tweak it or do whatever you want with it, by all means, please go ahead and do so. But just before we get into this massive spreadsheet that I've created, I just wanted to highlight the first massive bullish announcement from the Alpha Mining Co team, and that is their invoice or their first equipment purchase has been paid, and they purchased 252 S19 Pro 104 terahash ASICs. That's going to be mining Bitcoin. We're going to take a look at that further. And then they also purchased their container, and they have the megawatt transformers, the cooling plates, and all of that stuff. So obviously this is the first news of them purchasing anything with the money. That's obviously great. And now let's take a look at what we can potentially make with this spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and just minimize my camera here. Let me put myself a bit smaller so you guys can actually see the spreadsheet. So if we start off here, of course, we have a disclaimer. Then if we look at the NFT statistics tab, this is kind of just pulled off straight from their white paper. There's nothing new here. Everything you guys should know. Obviously, the reserve NFT, it's $1,000. It has a 5x weight, and this is the amount of shares that each NFT holds. Now, where you can start putting numbers in is in this section 1. It says your NFTs. So here is where you're going to go ahead and decide what amount of NFTs you want, or the amount of NFTs that you've currently purchased or you plan on purchasing. You are going to put the amount in this column here. So all of these green cells, you can go ahead and put whatever amount you want. And as you enter whatever amount you have, well, you obviously see the different share percentage that you'll hold, the amount that you've invested, and of course the total share of what you own versus the total shares. Now, if we take a look at the right side of your screen here, you have a quick return table, and this is essentially a summary of what we're going to assume throughout this spreadsheet. And then once we have all the assumptions, you're going to be able to come back here and see how much money you could potentially make on these different time frames, and obviously depending on which NFT you hold. So this is going to populate as we continue populating the assumptions in this table or in this spreadsheet. And if we continue scrolling down here, we're going to get back to this phase 2 because this is kind of the summary tab for all of the calculations and assumptions that you are going to do in this spreadsheet. And we're going to get back to this, but first I just want to go through some of these assumptions that we need in order to make this spreadsheet work. So the first thing is any green cells you see on this spreadsheet, you can go ahead and change it to whatever number you want. That's entirely up to you. Of course, some of these green cells, for example, the initial Bitcoin miners that they've purchased 252 of them. So I'm not too sure why you'd want to put a different number there, because then you're not going to have the estimated value for that amount of miners. So obviously, do your own research before you do any of this, but what you can change is this assumption section here. So first and foremost, we have the different miner type, and if I just go ahead and click on this, this is the miners that they recently purchased. They bought 252 of them. And if we scroll down here, we can change the kilowatt per hour, the electricity cost, which is 0.03. If we apply that, that's going to show us our profitability based on the day of the month and the year. So this is one of their miners. And if we go back to the actual announcement here, they are saying that they are souping them up. They're making them better. So I do believe it says it here. Yeah, so it says that that's an astounding 60% increase in the performance of a stock SN19. And these data sets here, the profitability here is based on the 104 terahash. So what I've done in that spreadsheet is I've gone ahead and I've just multiplied this by 1.6 to account for the souped up version of their miners. Now, of course, this is an assumption. You can put this as 1.5 or 40% better or whatever the case may be, but we're just going to go ahead with that assumption. So now where you can go ahead and play around with the numbers are obviously all of these green cells. So we have the minimum daily profit for that miner, the daily maximum for that miner, as well as the average. And then as they get more miners or different types of miners, we can go ahead and populate or add more rows and add more miners. And again, these are all just based off of this. I didn't go into the hashing power and all of that. I did actually start doing that. Then we kind of just decided to not go there because it's too complicated. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. So that's essentially what you can change. Now, same thing with the KDA assumptions. You have the min profit, the max profit, your average profit, and the same is also true with the antimony price. And this is the selling price per ton. So I was just going on the internet. I was looking at how much is 1 ton of antimony. I got around $2,900 per ton. Again, that's going to change, and that's also something you can change. Now, we also know that Alpha Mining Co. is taking a 20% fee to just make sure that everything else is going smoothly, to buy more miners, all of that stuff. And I also added a operation contingency of about 3%. So essentially those two percentages, again, you can play around with them, but that's essentially taken out of the profit before getting to investors. Now, the next section of this spreadsheet is essentially all of the different milestones per each NFT sellout phase. So as they are selling out these NFTs, buying more Bitcoin miners, well, then we can go in here and change the amount of miners that they bought. Obviously, it's going to depend on the type of miner they buy. So that's obviously something we can change at a later date. But as we know right now, they've purchased 252 miners of the S19, and it's right around 166 terahashes. So essentially what's happening here is the daily min profit is just multiplying this number that, again, is an assumption based off of this data that we have that can always change. You're multiplying the amount of miners times that, and that's your min profit. Same thing with max profit, and same thing with the average profit. Now, for the monthly profit, we're essentially just doing that on a monthly basis. I know some months have 30 days, some months have 31 days. February could have 28 or even more or less. So all of that is not taken into account here. We're just assuming 30 days and we're calling it a day for now. So again, we have that for the min, the max, and the average profit. Now, for the reserve NFTs specifically, they have the antimony refining to it. And in their white paper, it does say they are planning to refine 40 tons per month. Again, you can change this number and you can see the impacts it has on the antimony value. And again, these are based on the price of antimony per ton that you can estimate in this spreadsheet. So again, that's basically the mint out for the reserve NFTs. Then we have phase 1, which is the first offering for the public NFTs, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, and that should be phase 4. So let's just put it like that, and that's exactly what you have. So as they continue selling out phases and buying more miners, we're going to be able to come in here, and let's say in phase 1, they end up buying 100 more of the same miners they originally purchased. We could go in here, put 100, and as you can see, it has the same calculations, and it's also going to show you the impacts that it has on the previous rounds. Now, all of this is all good, but I made it a lot easier for you guys to understand what's happening. So once you've done all of your assumptions here, you can go back into this section 2 table, and you're going to be able to just visually see how much you can get based off the assumptions. And again, this is an estimation purely. So if we take a look at the reserve NFT, assuming that the round is sold out, and again, for this to work properly, go in chronological order. Don't say that phase 3 is going to sell out before phase 2, because that just wouldn't make sense. They are doing this by phases. So just go in chronological order, because if you don't, then it's not going to reflect the exact amount of money, because each phase does impact the previous phase. Because of course, as you can understand, they're buying more Bitcoin miners or Cardano miners, and they are essentially mining more, meaning there are more rewards to go around. So if we take a look at this row, the reserve NFT, we have all of this data is coming from the tables below. I've just summarized everything here for you guys. And I guess the column that we really care about is the average monthly, because of course we have a min, we have a max, and we have an average. Again, these are all estimations. Then assuming we go and sell out the first round of the public NFTs. So if I change this to mint or to sell out, you're going to see the new amount of Bitcoin mining production with that NFT phase sold out. Now, this is all going to depend on the amount that they end up buying. So if I change this to, let's say, 50, you can see that now this has changed as well. So it all depends on exactly what they end up buying. But what you need to understand here is if I toggle this back out to minting, understand that each phase is going to have an impact on the previous phase because of the reason I already mentioned. So as we take a look at this, we have 6160 in terms of average monthly for the reserve NFT. So if I go back to minting here, we can see that that value has gone down because of course they have less miners and less rewards to go around. So as you play around with this, you can go ahead and play with the different sellout phases and see how much you could potentially make as these rounds sell out. And if I go ahead and I continue putting sellout here on these phases, you are going to see that these numbers remain the same. And the reason for that is actually because we don't have anything inputted on these rounds. So for example, you could estimate that, let's say phase 1 is going to be an extra 100 of these miners. Phase 2 is going to be another 80. And then we have, let's say 60. It's actually going to be more as they continue selling out because they are charging more for their NFTs. But assuming random numbers just for the sake of this exercise, then you see the different numbers, and you also notice that your monthly average for the reserve NFT is going up. Now, you may be also wondering why these values are not populating, and this is based on the section 1, so your NFTs. So if you have, let's say, a public NFT round 1, 2, 3, 4, well, you do see that this is going to populate. And then if we do the same thing, if we go backwards and we say that round 4 isn't actually minted out yet, well, you're going to see the impacts that it has on the previous rounds. So that's why you have to do it chronologically, because if not, it's not going to work out, and it's going to leave you questioning what's going on here. And again, there may be bugs. So if you do find anything, just let me know or fix it for yourself. Again, it's just a work in progress, and it's a nice tool to understand how much you could potentially make. So once we have filled out everything, if you go back to your quick return table, you can see that all of the different variations or time frames. Imagine again, you have the monthly or the yearly. You want to know how much you could make typically in a year if you were to have one of each NFT. Well, you just sum this up and you would see it's about $1,200. You've invested $2,300. Again, all of these are assumptions, but this just goes to show that you can play around with these numbers and come up with some pretty solid estimations. So with all of that being said, I know this video was quite heavy. There's a lot of information, a lot of different things that you can move around in the spreadsheet. Have a look at it, play around with it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below of this video. I'll do my best to answer them. If you guys have any suggestions on how we can make this better, I'm all ears. I love including anyone's feedback into anything. So that's basically it. I'm going to leave the link to this in the description below. You're going to have to save a version of it on your own desktop or Google Sheets or whatever you want to do. Don't edit this one. It's not going to be editable because, of course, we don't want people to just mess up everything. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to go drink a bunch of water now because my throat is dry. COVID is not fun, and I'm sure you guys have all had it. If not, happy for you. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.